Hello, and welcome to Tax Rate Calculation Explained in the Coxsackie-Athens Central School District. This presentation aims to help inform the Board of Education and community as to how their tax rates are calculated. The formulas used and figures you will see are provided to the district from multiple different entities. To begin, I will discuss some of the tax rate specific terms that we will encounter throughout this presentation. Following this presentation is my email. I would encourage anyone to ask questions as they arise. Our definitions will begin with tax levy. The tax levy is the amount of money required to balance a budget. This is likely to change annually. Next, we have the taxable value. The taxable value is more commonly known as the assessment value. It is determined by the county or community assessor. Next, we have the level of assessment or LOA. This is set by each community/town individually. By law, the level of assessment must be uniform throughout each individual community/town. In other words, every home in a specific town must be assessed under the same parameters. The consistency of the assessor within these towns is key to ensure the fairness in assessment process. I have included a link in the description section of this YouTube video to further explain levels of assessment. Next, we have equalization rates. Equalization rates play a significant role in the tax rate calculation. The equalization rate of each town is calculated by the New York State Office of Real Property Tax Service and is then provided to the district. This calculation is dependent on the aforementioned level of assessment or LOA. To provide an example of how equalization rates work, a home with a market value of $100,000 located in a town with an assigned equalization rate of 64.5% would be assessed at $64,500. Please note I have included a link in the description section of this YouTube video to further explain equalization rates as well. Next, we come to true value. True value refers to the market value of a home. It is calculated using equalization rates and taxable value figures. Finally, we have the tax rates. This is calculated using a standardized formula with all districts across the state using the same formula. Once calculated locally at the district level, the tax rates are then verified by the county, in this case Greene County. Once verified, a tax rate is established on the tax warrant to be signed by all members of the Board of Education. Once signed, tax bills are generated and disseminated to the taxpayers. Please note that a tax rate shows the cost per $1,000 of the tax value of a home based on the town in which it resides. The subsequent slides will walk us through the calculation of the tax rate itself. Step 1. In Step 1, we are going to add the total taxable value and exemptions. In our communities, exemptions are typically clergy exemptions. Similar to the total taxable value, exemption figures are provided to the district by the town tax collector via the county portal. The resulting figure of taxable value plus exemptions is then used in our next step. The total taxable value plus exemptions serves as the basis for us to use the equalization rates to calculate the true value of or market value of each town. This leads us to our second step of dividing the taxable value plus exemptions by the equalization rate. Please note that we are dividing, not multiplying, by the equalization rate because the equalization rate refers to the percentage of the true value or market value of a home that the properties are assessed. From here, we will use the district total true value to identify what portion of the total true value that each town makes up. In Step 3, we will divide each town's true value into the school district combined true total value. Multiplying by 100, we arrive at the proportion of each total for each town. So in this case here, we will see that the town of Athens makes up 35.54% of the school district's true total value. Caro makes up 1.24%, Coxsackie 50.94%, and New Baltimore 12.28%. Again, this serves as a basis for our next step. In our next step, we are going to we're going to divvy up our tax levy using the percentages that we just calculated. The result of this calculation represents the dollar amount of the tax levy that each town is responsible for. It is also important to note that the tax levy for this school year adheres to the New York State tax cap, whereas the tax levy increase is below 2%. So of the total tax levy that was voted on, $18,703,341, Athens was responsible for 35.4% of that, which resulted in $6,647,804.81. The same is true then all the way down for Carroll, Coxsackie, and New Baltimore, as shown on the table. Our final step is to take each town's proportion of the tax levy and divide it by the taxable value. Multiplying this result by 1,000 gives the district, county, and taxpayers their tax rate per $1,000 of taxable or assessed value. As mentioned before, once the tax rate has been calculated by the district, it is then sent to the county for verification. So here we will see our 4 different tax rates. $18.0094 for Athens, so on and so forth for Carroll, Coxsackie, and New Baltimore. So the last thing I'd like to do is talk about a same home comparison. In this scenario, we will consider a $200,000 true market value home in each of the 4 towns. 4 different homes, each with $200,000 values, one in each town. Using the state assigned equalization rate for each town, we can calculate the taxable value of the home and then can identify the tax rate on that taxable or assessed value. Notice how they all matched up to the previous slides. The next thing I'd like to do is just to identify some questions that I anticipated in the creation of this presentation. At a glance, the first question might be, why is it that Athens is paying significantly less per 1,000 than the other 3 towns, Carroll, Coxsackie, and New Baltimore? Since the equalization rate of Athens is closer to 1.0 or 100%, it can be assumed that the assessment value is closer to that of the true market value. Note the similarity in equalization rates between the 3 remaining towns and the small disparity of their tax rate per 1,000. To go back to the previous slide, or 2 slides to show you, tax rate on the taxable value is in the 25 to 27 range for Carroll, Coxsackie, Baltimore, and their equalization rates are in the 60s. How can equalization rates be leveled out so that they are consistent throughout the district? For this to happen, a reassessment would need to be completed by each town. School districts do not complete reassessments, each individual town does, or can. Next question, does this mean that reassessments are needed to improve equalization rates? A reassessment is very costly and time-consuming, but will result in equalization rates at 1.0 or 100%. Reassessments may not change your tax bill at all. The market is more likely to change your tax bill compared to a reassessment because it is able to consider sought-after property. In other words, numbers don't have feelings. Numbers cannot dictate what people want. The market can. For example, riverfront property is sought after. Numbers don't understand that. Market value does. Finally, how does STAR factor into my tax rates? STAR is more of a reimbursement process for those who qualify and is not used during the tax rate calculation. Those who qualify, some taxpayers will see a reduction in their school tax bill. Properties that have changed ownership in recent years will be reimbursed by New York State for their STAR amount. They do not affect the tax rate, but may, in some cases, as I just mentioned, reduce the tax bill. Finally, I'd like to open up for any questions for folks at home. Please email me at palmerr, there is a double R, at cacsd.org. Thank you very much for your time. Take care.